Wow.
Amazing. The magic is in the intro. Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi, Heimbach. Good to have you.
Good to have you back.
Well, I've never been on this podcast, so I can't say my catchphrase, but maybe another time.
Yeah, well, I'm just sticking with good to have you then. I guess that's fine. Welcome to the show, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. I have a little Spätburgunder from my hometown, next to the hometown in the Black Forest. And takes me back home in the time when we can travel. So that's why I love this.
That's a great idea. That's great. Cheers or chin chin, however you say
cheers.
that in
Prost.
Yeah, prost, yeah. Mm-hmm. So people might ask why we have lost the symmetry this time. My friend Dennis is the is the guy who has caused this problem, or not a problem. It's not a problem, but it's quite funny like this, having you in the studio instead of from a distance. But he lives close by, and he had some Wi-Fi problems, so we thought, okay, let's have Dennis over and do the chat from here. But as OCD as I am, I have to get used to 3 screens instead of 4. So, but we'll deal with it. And Albert is joining us from Eindhoven. What's up, Albert?
Yes. Yeah, doing good.
Awesome. Are you in your studio, or are you in a different location?
I'm in my little studio, in the center of the city.
Nice one. Cool, man. I guess the common thing between all of us is that we have had some experience with using equipment to make music which was not originally designed to make music with. And it might be a night of talking about that or about something entirely different, but I thought it was nice to bring all of us together, and since we have this shared interest. So let's see where it goes, where the conversation will be heading. And for the time now, I think I should do like a little housekeeping shout out, because if you're watching this from YouTube or Twitch, you can comment in the comment section, and we can actually see your comments here. And so if you have anything specific to ask to one of the brains here, please do so, and we'll try to address your question. So yeah, let's go, guys. I must say, I feel like a complete amateur looking at Heimbach's situation there. The professional streaming dude. Yeah. Oh, I mean, look how professional. He's even saying hi in the chat too.
Of course. Always be with the chat. Hi, chat.
Yeah. Multifunctional.
Nice that you're all here.
So what have you been up to, Heimbach, apart from drinking your favorite red wine?
Today I posted a new video about a piece of test equipment, and I was just talking in the chat with Gerald Fjord, and because I traveled to the States to meet up with Adam Morford in Denver, Colorado. And because you're not allowed to officially play a show unless it's like something that's for non-profit profit and all of that stuff. So I didn't bring any instruments because I didn't want any of that hassle. I just ordered some test equipment. I ordered a Tektronix TM500 rack with 2, I think, a function generator and a pulse generator. And I ordered the unit I talked about today, which is the Princeton Applied Research CR4, which is one of the most amazing fuzzes, bit crushers that I've ever heard. And I hoped, maybe we can play something. And Gerald was so nice to put up a little show, non-profit, no money, nothing. So I'm not in trouble with the U.S. government for that. But it was a lovely show. And they just played this rack that I basically bought off eBay and rehearsed like 2 days with Adam, and then took that out. And it was really just that: a filter, 2 function generators, and a reverb. And yeah, that was a ton of fun. And yeah, just seeing Jared there in the field reminded me of that, and that you can even do with just a little bit, because of the wide range that these instruments have. You can do a whole lot. And for me, it was, of course, also an exercise in minimalism, because every pitch change, everything had to be hands-on, and everything was, it was really like in the margins, in the tiny movements, there was a whole world of sound. But of course, I didn't have to play alone. There was Adam, and he played many more instruments, percussion, his own build stuff, a tape loop we had spun around. So it wasn't as nerve-wracking as it might sound, or as monotonous as it sounds to just play two function generators and the filter. It was actually very nice. So
you, in this case, you had a person who owns equipment like that. But how do you do that when? And also a question for Dennis, to be honest. If you play somewhere, I mean, the thing is with even with normal gear, with synths and drum machines, it's sometimes a hassle to travel with your stuff. But if I can imagine, if you use filters that weigh like 8 or 10 kilos each, how the hell do you deal with that? Because there's no such thing as a broadcast or testing equipment rental place in every country or everywhere you go. So how do you normally...
You just suffer.
Yeah, really? Is that it? I mean, how do you...
Well, I bring too much gear every time. I also need like 3 or 4 hours to get my set right. So, yeah.
How do you do that, Heimbach? Yeah, do you bring do you have a small live setup?
I actually built one this year, and I wanted to tour with that. I had a Tektronix TM500 format. I'm working on a video on that, because that just sounds amazing, but it's basically a modular format. It's like modules this high, but this long. It's still ridiculous. So I made a little portable rack with that. I mean, and it comes in a portable case that was meant for, portable sciencing. And I had beautiful, beautiful stuff in there. And I mean, it sounds a bit like... It sounds pretty gorgeous. And that was my live rack supposed to be... that I used with my Seared Lombard and my tape for this year. But of course, it didn't happen. So I couldn't do that. But one thing that I did was I took all the stuff that I couldn't fit in my studio, and then I went to a gallery and put it up there. So I built statues out of my test equipment, 3 2-meter high statues, patched them together over a course of a week, and created a patch and a performance. And I played that 2 times. So that was a way I could avoid the stuff that you do, Dennis, where you're taking all your stuff and building it up and like breaking your back, lifting all that stuff. It's mental. But I could just do that once, take like an LKV, a bus, and then take it there, build it up, have time, make something impressive visually, play that, and play for 45 minutes. It was really, really good. And I'm hoping to release an album with that next year. So that was the way I could get around that. But else, I'm very much trying to get that stuff portable, and even like something that I could put in a carry-on, and that was that TM500 rack.
But then it's also not too heavy, because I guess this measuring equipment is heavier than normal gear. So did you manage to get it under the carry-on weight?
I haven't tried that, but it's too much probably. I think it's 15, 16 kilograms. So usually they don't check for the weight unless they're a really stingy airline. But
you have to look like it's super light all the time.
Yeah, it's so easy. Its test equipment is not heavy. It's just so light. It doesn't weigh a thing.
Yeah, I mean, Dennis and I did one of the stay-home sound systems here together, and after that we did some tracks, and for that we transported pretty much, I think now probably 70% of his studio to this room.
It's too much.
And I mean, I loved it, and we built like a massive tower of stuff in the middle of this room. But it took us like a full day to move everything, and then a whole night to build it up. And then we did one show, and then we decided to leave it here, because it was just I couldn't get my head around just doing that one show and then just move everything out again. So it stayed here for about a week, and then and we eventually we ended up doing 2 EPs for the Stoor label. But yeah, it's I mean, if you like exercising, it's nice, you know. If you want to incorporate exercise in your daily routine, it's good to work with this kind of stuff. But it is a nightmare, because even when it was back at your place, you spent another 2 days or something to reassemble your studio.
I'm now trying to have like 80% of my live set outside of the studio already, so I don't need to break down the whole studio every time.
I remember like after your gig we played both in the at Worm. It was like putting it back up and putting the studio back together, making it nice. There was a full day of heavy lifting, patching it up together. That was sweat-driven work. It's crazy. Yeah.
And I'm doing it all over now.
Tell me how's the
studio
progress
work
going, because you're connecting it in such a way that people who are not used to working your place can find their way around it a bit better, or something. Is that the idea?
I bought matrix routers for video, and I think I can attenuate the inputs and connect everything to it, so then people can just program it like a Synthi in a web browser and do the routing. Then people don't need to worry about where do I go in here and when do I go out, basically.
So what did you build for that? Did you build matrix? Something extra?
A matrix?
No, I bought a video matrix, 64 by 64, but it's only the maximum voltage is 2 volt PPP. So I just need to attenuate the outputs of the devices, basically, and then it's okay. Because how you go into it as equipment doesn't matter. Everything has a preamp in the input, so.
But Dennis, does that mean that someone can, from remote, program your studio?
I can do it remote from home, basically. I just need to figure how I can tune everything remote. That will be super great. Yeah.
Oh yeah, motors.
So then I don't go there anymore.
There's a thing, Gerald. I think you know that technology. Isn't there like something for pedals where you have a little motor?
Yeah, a robot. Yeah. I've seen that.
What is that? That's like a commercial product now.
Then I don't need to go to the. Then I just record my stream. Then I don't need to go there anymore.
Yeah,
fantastic.
And you can stuff even more stuff. You can stuff even more equipment in your studio because it doesn't need any people, any persons. It can just be a storage room with robots.
The drone studio.
Yeah. So maybe people in the comments know this sort of knob. Rotary encoding turning thing robot.
I heard about it too at Willem II. They were talking about it too, to use it for the big oscillators.
Or I do the big matrix just with voltages. You know, I can do 2 volt with divide by 64, and then add them and subtract them maybe. Well, forget it.
Hey, but Dennis, since you know so much about the insides of this equipment, would it be possible to just build smaller versions of whatever's in there? Because it's the outside that is the most heavy, right? And the controls.
The testament, you mean?
Yeah.
That's too hard, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, I mean, if your knobs are like this big and your meters are this big, you can do with smaller ones, I guess, you know, which are lighter. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's something to say about the aesthetic too. Yeah, true.
I mean, this is called the Not Twiddlers podcast.
Make it all small.
You know, what I do live is also visually, you know, the show. People want to see the big things, you know, the big knobs and the equipment.
Oh. Yeah,
if it's all the size of a Eurorack, it's not interesting anymore.
Yeah, I was just making you say it, you know.
Yeah. I'm not a hipster, you know.
Yeah.
It's nice though. I think the equipment makes you think about sound and music in a different way because it's so big. Yeah. So it makes things more basic in your head, to me at least. The function gets so basic because the knobs are so big. So it's more straightforward in a way. I mean, it can also be very complex, of course, but yeah.
Well, it's true that you tend to get a different relationship with an instrument based on the way it looks and operates, you know. So if you have a massive stack in front of you with, you know, really cool design big knobs and meters, then you approach them totally differently than when something is on a tiny circuit board, and like you have to wear glasses to see it. So it is definitely helping, focusing more on what you can do with the sort of the single functions of machines like that, than to just grab for the next knob when you're out of ideas, immediately. So it kind of focuses you to work harder to get some sound out of it.
Also.
Yeah.
Well, there's
But
also
the sound that comes out in itself is already so good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why I cloned that Rode and Schwarz sine oscillator. It's just a sine oscillator, but it just sounds so beautiful. And it like when you up the gain, it just overdrives because, I don't know, it's old and probably like in big need of service. So the sine becomes imperfect, but nice and overdriven. And I just had that thing. And I thought, oh, wow, this was my first piece of test equipment that I actually bought. After I read Dennis, like, buy something, and I couldn't find anything off that list, like the big buyer's guide to test equipment. Nothing available. I couldn't find anything. So I just went locally, I went to a guy and I bought like a Rode and Schwarz 25 kilogram sine oscillator and an oscilloscope also same weight. I was like, okay, I'm here by my bike. That's a problem. And but I had it. And when I patched it in, I was, okay, this is a sound that I love. And just with that single, boom, massive sine, I could do so much. And yeah, of course, then I basically cloned that machine and made it into a virtual instrument that you can now play on your iPad, which is another way for me to take the sound of this thing with me, because now I can use my Up Fundamental on the iPad and just have 8 oscillators together. But I have to say, the one thing that I love about Dennis shows is the sense of immediate danger. Because you stack these things up and they're like, okay, it's like a bit shaky but heavy and everything looks dangerous. Yeah, but it looks dangerous.
Yeah.
And you're so serious behind the machines, and you're like, And I could like the sound system, like the limiters on the sound system keep like, oh no, don't please, no. And it's like feels so, because I know how dangerous it is with this equipment to patch, because just one patch cable somewhere wrong can make and can be horribly loud and off-putting. Same with a modular synthesizer, but there's much more. And there was a recent thread on Twitter, like, what was the most dangerous music that you ever heard? And I said Monopoly at Worm, because it felt like any moment everything could break apart, but it didn't. And I was like, he's playing with fire. This is actually like, this is raw. The equipment was testing the limits of the PA, and your music was so powerful and heavy. So that was the most dangerous music I actually heard.
Wow.
Thank you.
There you go, Dennis. No, it's true. I mean, it apart from how it looks and their big stacks and their sort of seem to be very dangerous when they would fall over. But I mean, I think it's true. It's a universal thing about live performances. There should be something dangerous about it,
Some equipment can give you shocks. Like
no, I know. I don't mean it that way.
No, really. Like the Rode and Schwarz UBM. Sometimes, you touch it and bang.
Yeah. I wasn't really talking about like unhealthy danger, but
it's not unhealthy.
No.
Keep you focus.
25 volts.
Yep. Dennis, do you want a Red Bull? No, I'm fine with it. No, but I mean, like, I guess Heimbach also means that it's dangerous in a sense that it's unpredictable, and it keeps you on your toes, because the equipment has a life of its own, as well as is influenced by Dennis in this case. But there is always this sort of on the edge feeling about the whole thing, because it's it's making a lot of strange noises, but it's also like you said, anything can happen. So you always expect something crazy to happen, and sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. So it's unexpected. I think that's the danger, right? What you mean?
Yeah. but also in performance, of course, like there's also the other danger of just, sucking, just not doing, that's something with modulars and anything I like improvising electronic music live, there's always the danger that you're going to suck at some point. I have that, I feel like.
And you will.
If I've sucked, you will suck, of course, it happens. But then there's like, I feel like there's something that I learned when I did the residency at the Waveform Research Center was, and if it's getting too deep nerdy here, because let me know, but you Dennis,
on this
you've got
podcast,
a really cool,
dude.
Okay, because
go
Dennis,
for
you've
it.
got a really cool way of getting rhythms involving the boxcar averager that I think you've gave a nickname to, and I wonder, could you just go into that, how you get rhythms with that, how that works?
That's basically it's got a clock pulse, and then I put a second clock pulse in, and then it goes to the boxcar average. It's like a sample and hold kind of thing. Then it compares the two pulses, and if they are together, then it gives a pulse out, depending also on the length and stuff. And then with two pulses, I get the offset of the main clock with the second pulse, the offset. I can do all kind of variations of a beat. It's really insane. Just a twist of a knob and a new pattern comes out.
But is it random, or can you control when you hear what?
You can control it really good.
Mm-hmm.
You control it really good.
What was the nickname again? Was it James Brown that you gave
No,
the nickname
the funky
to
drummer, I call
Oh,
it.
yeah,
The
yeah,
funky
yeah,
drummer.
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember we used that as here as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can indeed. I mean, it is not 100% predictable how a setting change is going to affect the rhythm, but changes do happen. So it's a matter of, just changing them around until you hit something.
It's always
which
in
you like.
time. It's
Yeah.
always in time. The timing is always perfect. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, but how the patterns develop and when the beats are going to hit, that is something which is sort of unpredictable. You can change, you can increase the speed of events happening and decrease it, but when they exactly are going to hit is sort of like a mystery, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's when you tune it right. It's the hardest thing to set up when I play live. To set it right,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes I'm not in control.
Is that because the phases need to align or something?
No, there's so many very parameters you can set on it,
Okay.
and I just need to get it. To get it, try and get it work proper. That it responds nice on the knob settings.
So, Heimbach, you did this iOS app, right?
Yes.
How did you go about modeling that to something that is faithful in your ears? Because you also basically say that the sort of flawedness of the original testing equipment is contributing to the magic of the sound, right? So is that something that was modeled into the app version of?
I spent hours upon hours recording it. I recorded like a few hertz up, recorded at all the values that you have, like all the amplitude volumes, recorded a second time, record, up until like the highest range. So that was super tedious, like the most boring thing in the world. And then I added all these parts, so like every time I messed up, because of course you get tired and go, oh, did the wrong. So it was tedious work, and I like people that do sample library work, like it's hardcore tedious stuff. But then I gave all that to Sinan Boksoy of Sonic Lab, and he then analyzed that. He machine learned everything. He turned it into wavetables, and for each voice that we've got running, so it's 8 voices, and there's 4 wavetable oscillators running all the time, interpolating. And at some points, you are reaching the limits of what digital can do. And that's something we found out, like, where's the point where the crossover, where the vintage model, we've got 2 models in there, the mathematical model and the vintage model. Mathematical is a pure sine, basically, and the vintage model is the modeled one. But at some point, we were at the limits of what someone running this at 44.1 kilohertz would be able to hear without artifacts, because you get so many foldbacks once you are past a certain frequency. And those in digital, they didn't sound nice. It was like noisy stuff. So we tried to find the perfect crossover when it was good to move from the the model stuff to the mathematical. So I think that was at 3.5 kilohertz, and there it turns into a mathematical model. So it was, at some point, it became impossible to model the original, but we tried to keep it, in the important parts, we tried to keep it as faithful and as powerful as possible with the modeled stuff. And that's the 4 wavetables trying to interpolate and trying to capture all the variables at all the different volume settings.
Wow.
And if you listen back, then you don't hear a lot of difference? Do you... No, okay.
Not when I'm running it at 192 kilohertz. So that's another thing. Like you have to, if you run your audio stream and everything, audio interface at a really high rate, you get a lot of headroom, and that's cool for that stuff.
Yeah.
So I have to say, I'm lying. At 96, my ears are too old. So at that point, it's fine. So not bragging. It doesn't make sense. So that sounds fine. So, but then of course there's another thing, because this thing does only murr, and then you go. You pitch it. So in the end, it's like getting something musical out of it, except for setting a pitch and then offsetting that to another oscillator doing a pitch that I have. It's not very productive musically in the end after some time. So we turned it into a playable thing, and that's where the magic of digital comes in. We added MIDI polyphonic expression, so you could really play it. So suddenly you could touch all oscillators. Basically, you could imagine like touching 8 oscillator wheels, and then by pressure increasing the amplitude, thus changing the timbre, adding more to it, and then pitching each of your fingers to the left, to up and down, so each of them flows into a different pitch range. And that for me was the point. It's impossible to do with even the bank at Willem II. Like that was also another big inspiration, the bag of sine generators there, and Hans trying to make electronic music that doesn't sound synthesizer-ish, but that was one of the biggest inspirations for Fundamental. But then going past that, going beyond the limits of the original machines and turning it into something that's truly a playful instrument that anybody who's played stringed instruments will suddenly like, because you can bend all the tones everywhere. And that's to me where the magic of this instrument lies. So at some point, okay, the modeling is fine. Okay, that's good enough. That's good. That sounds good. I love it. But now let's make it something that's more than the original. Yeah,
I was going to say, once it's in the digital domain and you got the sound sorted out, you can potentially do shitloads of other stuff that would be impossible with the originals. Cool. I'll check it out. I haven't checked it out. I saw you talk about it, but I'll have to listen to it. That's cool. So yeah, you mentioned Willem II, Albert. You've been doing a lot of work there, right? A lot of collaborations. I know of at least one, and that's ours. But
that was nice too, since we recorded only on the measuring equipment, so we made more than an album, maybe 2 albums worth of material just with the measuring equipment, and we also used a lot of tried to do rhythmical music, so it sounds like 70-year-old techno.
What I thought was really cool. I mean, the way I collaborated with Dennis was pretty much having Dennis operate and control his equipment, and then I kind of built a setup around it, with my own equipment, which was more traditional stuff, and kind of sort of tune the sounds of the stuff that I was doing to the type of sounds that are coming from his stuff. So it sounds coherent, but still, there are basically two worlds brought together in that sense. But what's cool in the collaboration we did in Willem II is that it was really only test equipment and tape, just the stuff that you worked before a few times, but I up to the point never really controlled it and worked with it. And I find myself doing things that I've learned, with modular, but especially with stuff that is very limited. If you have a very limited amount of gear and possibilities, like for example things like matching LFOs, by hand. So they are sort of going at the same rate, but not really. You know what I mean? And those kind of stuff, tune the frequency of a ring modulator to an LFO in some some other piece of gear and match that both to the rhythm of some generator that creates pulses, and then they're all kind of shifting a little bit, going back and forth, and creating really constant rhythms, but because they are a bit loose, they're never really the same, you know. So that kind of stuff is I think really interesting with having so little parameters to tweak. You start doing things out of necessity almost.
Yeah, what I also liked is that you, as you said, like watering plants, you turn a knob, and then we also took a lot of time. I learned this from Jochem, to step back and just sit there and see how the system adjusts to that change of just the knob once you have a more complex patch. So you don't, because usually I guess I touch all these knobs too often, but you can also let it run a little bit and give it some air and let it breathe. And I think, I think that was really nice. And I think you can also hear it in the recordings, that it's just, you hear all these changes and it sounds super organic, and everything keeps changing all the time because it's,
It's like a self-generating patch, you know. It's like how you would program something like a synthy in the past. You know, you give it some connections, you make a patch, and then once you have a setting with a certain range that sounds nice, you know, it's sometimes good to just step back and just listen to what it does, you know, instead of intervening all the time. Because I like stuff which is self-generating, you know. Sometimes it takes a while to get tuned into it, but once you are, it can do beautiful things that you would never have been able to imagine by itself, you know. So it's sometimes you have to let the machine do what it does, you know, and see how it develops.
Yeah, especially with the sounds, I think.
No, curious that you're talking about the Synthi, because I played one first at Willem II. I never had played one before. And then I got the Syntrax from Erica Synths, which is inspired by the Synthi. It's a different thing. It's modern. It has a digital patch matrix. There's all these kind of modern conveniences, but it has a similar workflow. And there it is indeed a similar thing to like tuning the 3 oscillators before you're thinking about the pitches. And that reminds me very much of patching the test equipment. So when I just do 3 oscillators, and then, of course, you've got a joystick to have fun with that. But still, like, the thing, like, matching 3 oscillators to each other and just having them, you start listening to the beats so much, and the Schwebungen, which is so interesting. And that enables this, the stepping back process, Albert, that you described. Like, where you're just listening to all these different little beats that are happening between the waveforms themselves that are always just a touch changing, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
I did for quite well with my modeler playing, just doing generative patches. I was also smoking a lot back then, and make a patch, smoke a doobie, and just listen. And, I created the organism or something like it.
I really enjoy that.
Yeah. But
it's kind of.
No,
just kidding.
No, not really.
Yeah.
But I used some software, and I'm trying to get back into that with Max MSP or similar, to make generative patches that have so much probability functions and random functions that they self-generate. Yeah, I'm super interested in that now.
Do you like guys? Sorry.
We've got a question from YouTube from Bouke van der Waal. What would be a proper Eurorack replacement for the vintage test equipment? Isn't it as a user you could just go towards the perspective of using a Doopfer 110 instead of a make noise DPO? Okay, who wants to comment on that?
I got an opinion on that. Because
Go
I mean,
for
the
it.
DPO is kind of like there is DPO-like stuff already in some of the test equipment, like the complex oscillator. So there are complex oscillators. I mean, some of the Cronin Heights, Dennis. Which
And the
one is the model
2400,
number?
yeah.
The 2400.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That has a complex setup, so you can do stuff. And it's crazy oscillators. So you have that
It's the
already.
best.
You don't have the wave shaper, I think, in that, right? There's no wave shaping in that, but you can.
It has a
adjust the
VCA.
Yeah. Ah, okay, perfect. So that's
But
already there. So it's a
but
complex
you can like
oscillator.
you got like various kinds of modulations, like FM, pitch, and other options.
Yeah. But spirit-wise, like I would say, like there's one manufacturer that kind of nails it, and that's Joranalog. And Joranalog does all these beautiful modules, like they're called like Generate 3. And then he's got a filter, which is quadrature filter, and he's inspired also by the test equipment. And in the way that the mixer works, the switches, the comparators work, everything has like a clean look to it, and it takes some of that, test equipment style.
Approach.
It really, I think, and it's all like really is super. So Genalog, he really takes his name to heart. It's all analog. And you can do similar things, like with the Generate 3, it's closely reminds me in timbre to the WaveTech oscillators. So it has that kind of like West Coastish singing saw. And that would be like, I've got a whole rack of Joranalog here because, I think it's so like it. So what, of course, it doesn't have is this massive overblown voltage range, so you can overdrive anything behind it. It's like it has the standard Eurorack range, which is still a lot. But Joranalog is the one I would say is functionally and from the sound the most similar to test equipment right now. And then there's another guy, Starling Modular. And Starling Modular, it's digital modules, but he's a guy who actually, I think he made Pong on a Nimbin system. So he programmed Pong on a nuclear instrumentation modular.
Nerdy.
Yeah, he's crazy. He's really smart, and he's one of those like he America has this beautiful like recycling thing where people just pick up all the stuff from universities and then just resell it. So he had a huge Nimbin system. I went to Skype with him. Was like, oh wow, this is giant, and he made really good use from that, and all that is in the Starling modular modules also there. So with a very modern approach.
Maybe Heimbach, drop it in the comments.
Put it in the comments.
Because people are asking about it.
Not Stalin. It's not Hamish. It's not Stalin modular. Okay.
But there's also, of course, a lot of stuff we use with the test equipment which isn't available in the modular at all. Like the crazy bandpass filters or the lock-in amplifiers and stuff like that.
Yeah, lock-in amplifiers doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So that's a shame.
Yeah, bandpass filters to some extent, but not as clean and as beautiful sounding as the Brule and Kjaer stuff, for example.
Yeah.
The most Eurorack manufacturers even don't specify a bandwidth of a bandpass filter. So, yeah.
There's no space.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, does the technology even exist anymore to wind all the coils? Because most of these, like really clean bandpass filters, they're coil-based, right?
Yeah.
Does the technology even exist anymore? Is it possible to produce this?
Oh yes, but also with the chips, with ICs. My box of Angels is made with
the box of Angels,
Yeah, the box of Angels. It's made with Burr Brown filter ICs, and they still produce them to make the bonds. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw this question about what was your first. Sander, bring that question back. What was the first equipment you guys ever bought to produce music with?
Yeah.
I think what I'm interested in, and that's probably going to answer this person's question as well, is the stories of hunting down this stuff, because this is not something you can buy off in a music shop, you have to really find it on eBay or stuff like that, or go to storages of hospitals and old labs and stuff to find it, right? So
Yep.
And how do you start? You know, where do you?
yeah.
Why do you fall for this
Well,
machines?
Okay, that's a lot of questions in one.
Okay,
Let's first start with Owen's question, because that's an interesting one. Why
Dennis, do you move from a modular or a synthesizer? Because we all know you've always been a big collector and buying and selling, and also on the synth forum years back, always very active with synthesizers.
Yeah.
In this scene, why do you choose to move into measuring equipment?
Because the modular scene exploded too much, you know. I did modular because no one else did it. And now, you know, it's so popular and it's so widely available and stuff. And then I moved deeper into the stuff, into test equipment. I already had a little bit. The first thing I bought was a Brun & Kjai bumper filter, because I got inspired by an album from Ken. And they had this big Brun & Kjai on the cover. And then I was like, wow, what is it? Brun & Kjai. And then I made a search on Analog Heaven. And then I found a post by Dak Crowell. Heimbach also knows him. And then he did like a buying guide. A buy guide for test equipment. And then I bought a Brun & Kjai from a vibration measuring company in Venlo, picked it up with the train and carried it back to Rotterdam. And then I played it with a search, basically.
So you just got tired of using what everybody else uses, basically.
Yeah. You know, I want to be special. You know, I'm not.
But also in
but
sound.
Dennis, you are special.
Yeah. I want to be different. You know. Yeah.
But in sound, or because of just general hipness, or also because you got bored of the modular sound? Or synth, like classic synth sound.
No, not really. I think I can still have fun with the modular, you know, but everybody does it, you know. It's not, Yeah. I just want to be a bit of a rebel, do different things, you know. Back in the days when I had keyboard synthesizers, I was making drones and all kind of stuff instead of melodies and rhythms and stuff. And now I have the perfect drum setup. You know, no VCAs, no envelope generators, and now I try to make a real music, you know, with beats and some kind of melody. You know,
there's a prediction about your future. He's going to move into high voltage power lines next.
Yeah.
When now everybody is jumping on the test equipment stuff. What's your next plan?
They are too late. I'll go VFT, you know, when everybody. Yeah.
Well, I've got a few that you can try, buddy.
Yeah.
Start with the groove boxes, like Joachim said before.
I bought an organ model last week, a MIDI organ model. Yeah. There's a drone voice, you know, with all the drawbars and stuff. I think it's going to be great.
So yeah, but tell me, you both you and Heimbach, some of the stuff you discover hasn't been used as a device to make music with before. So how do you find out? Because you showed me some stuff that that is outside of the well-known test equipment gear, right? Like that not many people are using. And so same as for you, Heimbach. You come up with sometimes unique pieces of equipment that nobody ever even considered as a music-making device, a kid's toy or whatever, you know. So what is do you have sensors for these things, or where do you find them?
Cheap. Cheap is a good sensor.
Yeah.
Really?
So I tend to like scour, like you go basically, you don't, I don't know, you didn't do it, Dennis, but I go like on eBay. I don't search for things. I just browse. I go into the categories, like red, like, I don't know,
lowball.
All the off off categories, and then just browse, and then see something. Oh, this could be interesting. Is it cheap? If it's cheap, I'm just gonna try it. Like the best thing I got was which is actually like the most useless thing, but it was such a success, like in regards to like how many people viewed it, found it interesting, and that was the saddest drone machine, which was an HP communications line tester, and that was something that it wasn't on any buyer's guide. It wasn't the buyer's guide. It sounds like it's a book. It's just a post by Dennis and by Dak. Funny that I know that now. And you could, of course, look at the gear list of Willem II, but it wasn't there. It was just something, maybe this will work. And I got it to play exactly 2 notes. And there was like, boom. And then they would go, boom, 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 boom. It sounded really sad. I just put it on tape, multiplied it, tape loops, and then added more test equipment to it, make a track of that. And that was the whole video. Like this thing, okay, it doesn't do anything, but it's the saddest drone machine. And that was this HP thing. And there's a whole line of these HP things that actually sound pretty great. I have 3 of them now. 2 of them are dead. And they smell horribly because they've got giant fans in there and they sucked in whatever telecommunications, storage, air, they were from Deutsche Post mostly, is there. And they're all cheap and all have their own cool sounds. And I recorded so much with these like things that actually inject code. So the range of these things is much higher than the audio that you hear. So I recorded them at 69 kilohertz, so I could pitch them down later on if I desired so. So I made whole samples of them, so to hear what they're actually saying, because I could only hear a small part. So
the hidden stuff in the high frequencies that sort of become apparent when you slow things down extremely. Yeah, that's cool.
Exactly, but cheap is a good thing. Like, and I mean, now of course, Dak is always someone who is recommending a lot of stuff. He's also in the Hainbach subreddit where we talk a lot about test equipment. So if you're interested in this whole topic, reddit.com/r/Hainbach is a place where you can get a lot of like recommendations, and people, there's always the hashtag will it music, and then people check, okay, this is something that could be interesting, maybe, and then everybody's like jumping, yeah, maybe not, but it could be. So there's an active community now helping, and Dennis is also there, so it's really nice to have like these chats. So it's a good place to find things. But then there's, of course, the other option. Like, I mean, there's one guy here in Berlin, and he's basically selling off his dead wife's grandfather's shed. It's a guy with a shed full of stuff. And I bought, I think, 5, 6, 7 things from them. Like, I bought the Programmierbare Impulsgenerator, which was the title of my test equipment EP. And that's a unique piece of gear. It's just a bunch of 20 impulses, and you can set each one by milliseconds. So just for fun, I typed in, you can, with these little clicky things, sliders, you would tick, 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 and I made 909, 909, 808, 808, 909, 909, 808, and then press play, and it was like, because it's 20 steps, you get rhythms out of that you couldn't never get anywhere else. Or you wouldn't even think. You can, of course, you can program them, but you're not going to do that because it's just so weird. And that's like my off-kilter rhythm generator. And it's just something I got from this guy who's basically selling off the shed. And he puts up, he allows no visitors because he had bad experiences. So it's just like, okay, I'm putting this up on local classifieds for anyone to pick up. And then I look at him, okay, so he's posted something. Is it interesting? Yeah, maybe. And then we meet up and then take it, give him money and go back. So there's a very localized thing also.
So when I hear you and Dennis talk about working with this stuff, it is probably, the way I understand it, as much a process of discovery as well as it is a thing of making music, right? Because you said it does this or it does that. It's something you cannot come up with. So it's basically you're stumbling upon things, you know. So I'm not saying that is not musical, but what I'm saying is that the fun probably in most of this, using this stuff, is in just tinkering with it and see what it does and use whatever it comes up with in a composition, right?
Yeah, but try stuff, you know. Most stuff is not just an audio processor. Try sending pulses in it or control voltage. Then most times the real magic happens. That's what I discovered. My funky drummer pads, I was using it as an audio processor. And then one day I was like, let's see, let me put a clock into it, the clock signal. Clock in, funky rhythm out. I was like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the go-to that you're thinking, like, first, okay, I'm going to use this as an audio processor. I think that's a similar process that people do with modular. Like, I saw that back when I was really deep into the modular scene, people were like, I'm going to get a Eurorack for audio processing. And half a year later or 1 year later, they're doing generative patching. But it's like the entryway to that. And if you can start doing the whole control voltage stuff also, and that's something that I personally like, I haven't explored. I've got 2 racks of nuclear instrumentation modular with, I think it's 4 boxcar averages, which is too much. But it's something that I really want to try to see. What can I do to control voltage with that? And then even find a way to I've got also, like, now that's another thing, because I'm also very much into tape. And I got an HP instrumentation recorder as a gift. I had to pay 600 euro in shipping, so that the gift came with consequences. But it was a lovely gift. It's an instrumentation recorder that allows me to record 4 channels of control voltage and 4 channels of audio at the same time. So, and then pitch that up and down.
The medium is tape on that?
The medium is tape.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's like it's an 8-track recorder for control voltage or like FM modulated, so you can record control voltage DC, and then you can record audio. So this is something I'm still trying to wrap my head around, how I'm going to incorporate this, because this machine has also 2 things. It has an oscillator in, so you can control it via an external oscillator. So you could, in theory, because you've got outputs for each of these tracks, so you could record audio on it and then have the speed of the motor controlled by what's recorded on that. If you do a loop,
feedback its own signal. Yeah.
And you can play the whole thing externally with the sequencer or the tracking oscillator, and that you can pitch. And then it follows. That's another thing. The HP, I think it's AB minus IB protocol. So you can use the control protocol that HP uses across its units to remotely control it. And that could be potentially crazy to have like something like an app and the box to say like record.
You could build an installation and people can sort of log into your installation and create their own sounds.
Yeah, or just in the studio. I mean, like, just say, like, okay, record 20 seconds of audio, then play that backwards, then stop, play that back forwards, play that backwards for 10, 5, 3. So you could potentially create crazy stuff.
Yeah, that's what I mean, though. I mean, the whole process is, like, most of the fun is in these thoughts that you were just explaining. What can I do with this, and how can I make it work to do something really interesting? So it's kind of a different approach than working with a piece of equipment that was designed to make music with, because it has an interface that expects you to interact with it in a certain way, and it kind of guides you into treating it to according to the way the interface was built and stuff like that, from a musician's point of view, or from an audio producing device point of view, instead of something that was built for a completely different purpose, and you have to kind of scratch your head and come up with ideas how to make use of that. So I think you
we're like nerds, we kind of know how the devices work, and so it's not that hard at some point, and what's good and bad, for example.
But still, it's no one's patch but your own. No one thought this is like not an instrument anybody ever thought to be used as an instrument. So
there's no documentation or anything about it anywhere. How to make music with local amplifiers or with boxcar averages and so on.
It's interesting. It's like wrong by default.
Yeah, there's no wrong.
But that's very
no
nice.
Wrong.
This is a good question from YouTube, from Traitor to the Living. How much test gear do you think is still, or is yet undiscovered to make music. So how many things could be around there that could fit a musical purpose in this kind of way? What do you think? Any estimation? Because you guys have tried a lot of things. Some might be unsuccessful as something to incorporate, but
there's always stuff where I still look for and hope to find one day. But there's also stuff I bump into, and then I'm like, wow, I didn't know it exists. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard to say, but there must be quite some still.
Cool. And does
just analyzers in general are generally good for music.
Yeah. Every time it says analyzer on there, okay, what did they use to analyze at that time? And if it's pre-70s or like pre-80s, it's usually a bandpass filter. And when there's a bandpass filter, there's a possibility.
Mm.
But I think there's still a lot like there. Some things that are easily made into music, some things that are not so easily made into music. And I discovered like stuff. I've got one thing. In my studio, I've got a lot of stuff that I haven't talked about yet on video. So that I'm planning to go like that's only known to a handful of people, and then stuff that nobody knows. Like one thing I can talk about now, and I'm gonna make a video. Basically, up until the 1997. In Germany, when you went to the whole left on the shortwave radio, on UKW, Ultrakurzwelle, you could hear all these FM modulated sounds. And that was my first synthesizer. Because I couldn't afford a synthesizer, I just had a tape recorder, and I had a big radio that my girlfriend had, and you get white noise and these sounds. So I would use these sounds and manipulate the radio, go to the left, and then play piano. It's not unlike I do music now, except more complicated. But there was something that was a beautiful signal. I loved that, and I loved the surfing on those waves. But that signal was turned off. In 1997, they turned it off. So now you turn to the left, there's nothing anymore. That's just silence or some kind of crappy ad for some show. But then I was in one of these, I'm just browsing. And by the way, anybody who gets mad that people like Dennis and me tend to find all the good stuff, we just spend way more time than you searching stuff, probably, because we treat this as a serious job. No, it's I found a unit by Schlumberger, which is a lovely German name. And it's called, I'm looking at it here, it's called the Selektivrufprüfgerät. And that is meant to create these frequencies. That is meant, you can enter a number here, and then it will play that modulated stuff. And I tried it, it works, and I now have to figure out a way if I can clock it externally, and then suddenly make this stuff rhythm. So I'm basically I rediscovered my musical origins by finding this Schlumberger. And it's probably worthless to anybody but me, because it's just a series of beeps. And you could do that with any DTMF tone generator, as beep, 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 beep. And it's really simple. But just the way this machine works, the interface, and the memories that I attach to that, it's something really special.
It's a great story, man. So all the tinkering you need to do, and sort of maybe even the soldering and taking it apart to make it do what you need it to do, is that something you do yourself?
Me?
Yeah.
I just try. I open up things, see if there's something loose, and if it's not something obvious, like I don't know, like the input broken or something, then I try to find a tech that can repair it. And I'm actively looking for a tech in Berlin that can service the transistor-based test equipment. Because for the vacuum tube stuff, I have one. He said takes 3 months for everything because he's so overloaded with repairing space echoes or something. So yeah, I'm looking for someone to take care of some really nice things. So like word generators and stuff like that.
Cool. Well, shout out to the techs out there who are out of a job at the moment. Heimbach needs you.
Yeah.
You modify your stuff, right, Dennis?
Nou ja, last time the thing we used here in the studio, clock multiplication of clock, but that's really simple. And you know, I don't modify it. I just break stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
So tape. I should touch on tape because that's something I wanted to discuss as well. I like the. I'm coming back to the thing with that I did with Albert at Willem II, and I mean I've had tape machines forever. Actually, tape was the first medium I ever worked on when I started making music because I didn't have any gear, so tape was the only thing. Making basically collages with chopping things up, and even before that, just hitting the pause button and wait for things to come along, and then quickly unpause it, make a quick recording, and then just do that for a few hours, and then have the great moment to play it back and see what it had become without having ever listened back to it. Just crazy stuff like that.
I think we all did it at some point.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. But later I got a reel-to-reel machine where you could actually make loops, and I had a second tape machine and a cassette deck, and I used to just overdub looping things with other looping things, and they would go in and out of phase, and sometimes you could do something. If you were really accurate in your cutting, you could have the things actually loop accurately and make more sort of rhythmical stuff. I really like the process of having to, if that's your way of composition, having to make the decisions in a way that you make a choice and you have to spend an hour to make that choice real, because you have to unwind your tape and you have to put it on to put a sticker on it, and it takes a while to kind of work on the decision you made, and then there's the moment where you hear back what it has become. So it's a very long and tedious process, but you make way more conscious choices and decisions in the process of making music than, for example, when all the plugins in the world are available to you in an instant, basically. So yeah, that's one of the things I really like about that process. The sort of immediacy and the lack of possibilities, and not being able to just wander off and make useless moves, because your decision actually takes effort and time to realize. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can only cut it once.
Well, you can make multiple cuts, but
but I mean, the cut that you're doing is final in the sample that you have.
Yeah, there's something to say for that sort of destructive and laborious way of making choices in the music making process.
Yeah. We just used the tape in Willem II to make a tape echo or a tape delay, and that worked really nice too with old Struder, and just using it to as a tape delay on all the measuring equipment. Yeah, sounded nice.
Yeah, especially really easy on the big open reels there, because the big open reels, because you can just route like the tape away from the erase head. So
yeah, exactly.
It makes it really simple. It sounds like so much better than any space echo. So different, so more rich. I'm just playing. I don't know if you can even see it here on stream. I just got my tape loop here, and I've got a Nagra right here and I can just. That's so nice that it's so haptic and so strong. People don't realize how strong tape is. And usually what I do is like, I do tape loops here and then I just put them over the thing. I wonder if it's even like turned on. Give me a second. So.
Demo time.
It's not grabbing. The speed is too high. So here, can you hear that? So here's the tape loop. Here's
Eric
the tape loop
checking
looping over the
in.
microphone.
Little farts.
Yeah. But together with
So Heimbach, the sound source is the tape hitting your microphone then.
Now that's the tape. You hear the tape loop, and now you also hear the noise of the tape loop on the microphone.
Yeah. Okay.
And when I slow it down, you can do all these tortured screams. So, this alone. Isn't that fun? I mean, that's something that regarding Willem II, that's something when I was there was like, I have to get my tape loops always playable. They have to be always there. So that's why I put my Nagra over here. It was Willem II was workflow-wise such a big inspiration. So now I have this Nagra always ready to tape loop. It's on a sub bus on the mixer, so I can always throw something on there, and the mics always go to the piano, so I can always loop the piano in most old-fashioned way possible. But I love how resilient tape loops are and how much you can tear at them. And I use them in the live theater a lot. Like actors, like I did 3 plays now where actors have tape loops on stage and they walk with them across stage and do all kind of that stuff. And people at first like really careful with them, think, it will break. No, it won't, because good tape don't break. And
that's a good T-shirt. Good tape don't break.
make note to self. Good merch. Good tape. Whoa.
Yeah, good mic stands don't break either.
Yeah. I got the cheapest one here. This is like $20, but it still holds this SM7B or something, which is crazy. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, but we didn't get around on doing this cutting with. We only had 2 days planned at Willem II, and I didn't want to spend time on, just 2 minutes of tape composition music, and we ended up with 2 albums worth of material in the end. So I guess, but if you're interested in that, we could do it here sometime. I would be up for doing like a proper tape cut composition sometime.
Yeah, that's very cool. I never did it before, and I thought your stories were really nice also with measuring. So you're working at a certain tempo and you have to measure in centimeters the beat and which sound goes where. And I think that approach in general with making music is nice to have also done. Yeah,
if you want to have stuff, actually, if you want to make patterns and rhythmical things, if you would basically think of a rhythm or write a rhythm on your computer and actually want to replicate that, there's a shitload of measuring going on, and you can get really accurate, to be honest, if you measure the things right and you make really clear cuts, you can make it sound like a basic machine gun accurate, like really computer-like. You still get the tape wobble a little bit, but it takes a lot of time and patience, though. But it's a nice Zen activity.
I also thought the tape and the spring reverb in the balls made measuring equipment and the pulses sound so organic. So somehow the combination of the measuring equipment and tone generators in combination with the tape and the self-made spring reverb made everything super wet, like dub techno.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so much electronics going on with like input and output stages and levels and saturation and sort of hit the at some various points in the chain you're hitting the preamps harder, or so there's a lot of extra grit and noise and stuff introduced by just layering stuff from that studio. It becomes organic very quickly.
Yeah, great.
We should do it again.
I've got 4 tracks all over. I use 4 tracks to mix all the test equipment. I use so I can easily like at first it was a measure to like just have more, because I only had like 1 oscillator, and one bandpass filter and one word generator. And with the tape, I could double that. I could record it on the 4 tracks of the cassette 4 track and then play that in. And the nice thing is you get this kind of like, this is the past effect. When you play back the signal that's recorded on this crappy cassette tape, it just takes on a different timbre, especially if it's like a cheap tape loop. And then you have this powerful signal up front, then you crossfade them, and suddenly you're back there and it's a memory, and then you go so
it's like a Polaroid.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also, and you're moving into like, you're breaking up something, but you can always return. It's like this process, the hypnagogic state, the moment shortly before you fall asleep, when the reality seems to break away from you, this few seconds, it's just like this, I feel. And that's what tape does to me, I think, especially when I employ this technique of before and after tape. So you're moving through realities.
Okay, so you use it as a sort of creating scenes in music. So you move from one space into the other. Okay, that's interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. And contrast, of course. Contrast.
Yeah.
It's very
texture.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good to get contrast with that. Yeah.
Yes, super hi-fi and super lo-fi somehow mixed, blend together.
Mm-hmm.
What is that about this? That it has such a nostalgic vibe to it? Is it because I'm old enough to have experienced tape as a medium, like the main medium, but are you? I mean, I used to walk around with an actual Sony Walkman when they came out as my
yeah, me too.
I couldn't afford a Sony. I had an Iva.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm old enough for that. I think like there's also, I started to think about that a lot because I do a lot of scoring work, and there was one play where I had to go into the mind of an old spy from the former East German Republic, and he was suffering from Alzheimer's and he was losing his memories, but then all these memories kept popping up, and I needed to find a way to get this process like sounding right. And somehow tape was the medium that fitted perfectly with that, because I could put on a melody there, and then if I had it clear, like played on the piano on stage at some point, blah, 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 and then later it repeated on tape, it was like this crazy memory of the past. So it felt
more like an impression than an actual replication.
Yeah. And something, I think it's not only memory. I think it's not only memories of the past. I think there is something about the band limitedness of tape and of the fuzziness. Like we're not talking high quality studio machines right now here. We're not talking about Telefunken M15 that's been measured perfectly. We're talking about like cheaper machines, cheaper consumer tape and all that stuff.
Shitty
tape. Yeah.
Iowa.
It's not my channel, so I'm allowed to curse. So, no, there is a what do you call it? I think that's closely related to how I feel my memories are. When you try to think of something really accurately, like remembering a face, like from, I don't know, your second girlfriend maybe, or boyfriend, and then you are trying to remember the face, and the closer you try to remember it, the more distant it becomes and the less you can, I think, except you focus on one little thing, like maybe like a mole here. I can still remember that mole, but I can't remember the eye color. So that is something that tape also has. You can see like these little jagged edges really clearly, but lots of other things get lost in a wash. Mm-hmm. And I think there is some kind of neurological link even to the way tape deals with stored memories on it or stored sound on it to the way we store our own memory. I know my memory isn't like a computer, because then it would be perfect every time I replay it. It's constantly changing. Memory is like an active process. And
has it also to do maybe with if you listen to music or somebody who listens to music, it's more interesting to listen to something which leaves some space for your imagination rather than telling the story very accurately, I guess that's the same thing, right?
Yeah, maybe. I think there's just something that's fuzzy and it's not 100%. And that's, but still, it's somehow more information rich. Also, because of course, when you half speed it, you get more information out of that process than you do within digital. Because there you can hear the medium like kak, 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 or you can hear different artifacts. And so it's a different sort of thing. And I know my memories don't really work like the digital process. They are not like these finite things. They're more like these constantly pulsing things. Which is actually like that's neurons are. That neurons are like tick, 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 tick. They're constantly sending signals. And they're not like compartmentalized little bits of information. Right? I'm not a neuroscience.
It's interesting.
I just use their equipment to make bass drums.
The guy just passed away who invented the tape for Philips here in Eindhoven. My girlfriend did an exhibition about him at the gallery she was working at. So he also did a short talk or sort of a lecture about the tape. And he sort of had a love-hate relationship with the medium. And he was also pretty old, so he wasn't always super accurate with his memories. But there's also a nice documentary about him and about this process and him later in life and about his invention and about Philips. And it's interesting, I think. But he never saw it as a perfect medium. He actually sort of hated, like, he talks about it like it was his job for Philips. So it's kind of putting himself down and the medium and the process of R&D about the invention of tape. I mean, this type of cheap tape.
Was there like a document? You said there was a documentary?
Yeah, there's a documentary about him. I just have to look it up because I don't remember his name, but I can easily look it up. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, people asking.
Because there's so much stuff getting lost, right? I mean, like so much cool like information that old people have. That's old people. Like I'm not, but like that generations before us have. That's just getting lost because they're not sharing it. They're not like on a podcast. They're not like on a show talking about it, and that's something that's always sad to see go. So I'm happy to see any documentary that covers something like that.
Well, you know, it's true for like you know, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Mostly 60s and 70s, the recording medium in all studios was tape, you know. And if you can pick up like 24 or even 48 track tape machines from those times that are a fraction of the price that they used to cost back then. But all the people who used to service them are you know, they're retired, or some of them are even dead, you know. So you can in theory still use that equipment, but the problem is in the maintenance of these machines. Same goes for vinyl cutting machines, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only just a handful of people still traveling the world and servicing all these Neumanns and stuff like that. So it's not always that the technology becomes unusable, but it's the keeping the technology working is the main problem.
Absolutely. I had a hell of a time finding anyone who could service my Nagra. And I went to a guy who it was like a retired Tonmeister, which is like master of sound for film. So his like place was a dream for anyone into tape recording because he had everything. Like all the tape machines, all the good speakers, only the best stuff, all the best microphones. And then he'd like try to hook me up with people that could service it. But his main thing was like, yeah, they're dead. Because I was trying to get a Nagra 3 serviced, which is a 1964 machine. And for the for the later versions, the 70s versions, there's still techs around that can help them because those were used way into the 80s. But the Nagra 3, when the 4.2 came around, nobody used the 3 anymore. And so, yeah, I found a young guy. He did a repair, but then it broke down again very quickly. And then I realized that would have been something. Why? Because that was something that anyone would have picked up, that you knew these machines easily, because the supply that I was using was rated only for the 4.2 and not the 3. So when I used it, it was overpowered. So it burned out. But he had the things. It worked for him. It worked for him like for a day, and that was fine. But the longer load after longer times just blew it. So that's what happens. This is just stuff you know from experience. And then when the motor dies, what are you gonna do? There's like remagnetizing the motor. That's an impossible process, I think, for the old machines. I don't know even Nagra in Switzerland. I mean, they're still active. If they're still doing stuff like that, remagnetizing a motor that has become slow.
They just try to sell you a digital new one.
They're digital
Yeah.
Nagra. Oh, those are
Yeah.
these days look like nightmare machines.
Yeah.
Straight from Cthulhu.
Same as you go to with for service to Brul and Kjaer for old stuff. They just want to sell you new stuff. You know all about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. What did I say now?
Oh, there we
Yes,
go.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I knew he was gonna demo something. Demo time. Yay.
Sorry, I saw you guys were vaping, so I had to bring my vaporizer. No, so this is like the Brilliant Care sound level meter 2204, which is an amazing microphone in itself. And DPA, Brilliant Care realized it and made the DPA range of microphones later on because they realized how good this thing sounds. But yeah, I got this for $100 on eBay, but the microphone up here was shot. So
It looks like a weapon.
It's like it's a
You can
huge
throw
bump
it.
pass. Yeah, like this lower part, you can detach, and this fell on my head. That was really painful.
Oh,
But
Oh, the whole tech filter. Poor
yeah,
filter.
so this baby-sized instrument, is actually fantastic. It's a fantastic microphone, and they realized it when they did a choir record, like an orchestra recording with two of these, because like two of these spaced, and it sounded great. And just a year later, they realized they can make microphones out of these. But I asked them, the microphone part is shot. Can I have that, just the capsule? Can I have that reskinned? And they quoted me like 2,700 euros to have the microphone capsule reskinned. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I found
Never
one
mind.
for $150 on eBay that worked absolutely fine. And yeah, I don't know why I've got 4 of these now, but amazing microphones. So, but they're
people-
not relating.
So people don't try to break into Heimbach's house because he will come after you with that and smash your brain.
It is a weapon.
The Zorlon cannon.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's too heavy.
Yeah, I got 2 myself.
Great color too, that color.
Dark green. There's confusing stories like Dennis, you said it was the only color. What's the color? How did that came about?
After the war, there was the typisch color available, because the army used it and stuff, the green. So that was, the typisch color they could use.
Is
That's
this
why they used
also
it.
why all the tiles in the Berlin subway stations are that color?
Maybe, I don't know.
I heard another story, like from one guy who, like, he put it like in the comments to actually this video, and he said he worked at Brilliant Care like in the 60s, and he said, I don't remember right now if it was Brühl or Kier who was actually colorblind, and he liked that color. So a colorblind person liked that color. I think that's
They like the price. That's it.
with all things industrial. Yeah, but can I touch on one point that I don't think I've touched upon yet in general? It's like,
Sure.
Isn't it curious how many of these companies are like 2 guys? So it's Brühl and Kier,
Rode and
Rode
Schwarz.
and Schwarz,
Genau.
Hewlett and Packard,
yeah.
Krohn and Heid. It's a lot of these like 2 guys making making all
It's
these
probably
things.
the one guy was building them in the garage and the other one was trying to make a business out of it or something.
Absolutely.
Stuff like that.
Funny.
That's gone out of fashion, right? That has gone out of fashion, like this 2 guys business, or like two like to name your business like that, unless you're like, I don't know, a law firm or something.
C and O.
I don't know. Yeah, we should call our project something like that, Albert.
That's a funny idea.
Yeah, Dennis and me, we got a project that we still need to release that's called
Yeah.
High and Money.
Yeah.
Got
that's
two
quite
banging
close.
tracks.
It's
Yeah,
quite
just
close.
because he's always high and I'm just for the money. Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah, but that-
I Dennis played me some of that stuff, so it sounds good. It's abstract. You made it in Wave 4 Research
Yeah.
Center, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you finish everything there?
No.
No, mixed it at home, but I think for one track we took the original mix that Dennis just did like off the cuff, because
Right.
Dennis runs this Paris system that actually sounds really good, like especially the way Dennis writes it, like all in the red, like sounds really good, really good. It's really special. It's its own sound. It's hard to replicate, like in when I do it in when I mix in Ableton, it doesn't sound like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I learned with doing so many collaborations here in this room. When by the time somebody leaves, I want everything to be sorted, mixed, edited, finished, because otherwise you just spend months and months emailing stuff up and down and just making refinements and changes, and it takes forever. I mean, the fun thing is in making collaborations is, of course, the interaction between the collaborators. But if you do a lot of them, it's I've learned that a lot of time can be saved by just doing the sort of the fun things and the improvising and the tinkering on one day, and then try to form it into something coherent and finished the next. So by the time you split ways, it's done and over with. So the only thing you basically can discuss is the order in which it should appear on the release or whatever. But we didn't have the time, Albert and I, to get all of that done in our Willem Face studio session. But normally,
it's nice to at least not have the multi-track, so you just have the stereo file that you need to work with.
Exactly. So in a way, it was finished. It just needed to be top and tailed, but nothing changed in the composition. Maybe just a tiny edit here and there, but nothing radical or no multi-tracking. It was just recording was what it was. So in that sense, it came together quite quickly. We didn't spend too much time after that because we also did that in person, right? So
I enjoyed that too, but not crazy EQing. Just some aesthetic touches.
Yeah, just optimizing, I guess, because one thing about Willem II is that it's a wonderful room to work, but when you hear it back in the studio, it's let's say it was slightly different in my imagination. It's not a critique, but it's a thing that you have to kind of work if you're in an environment where you don't know the sound, the replication and the monitors and stuff. So. But you always get that a little bit. But at Willem II, it was very apparent that it was
it's like a live recording.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I always say
anyway.
A live recording is like a Coke, like a bottle of Coke. The day after, it's still Coke, but the bubbles are gone.
Oh,
or something. Yeah.
Lovely. Oh, that's a good saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I know what you mean, because the room has a good sound to it. It sounds very alive.
Yeah.
But it's like, unless you have like live microphones, it's hard to translate that. So it sounds so good in the room. I had so much fun in that room, but then listen to the track and that's okay. So now I have to add that atmosphere again.
Exactly, because it sounds more spacious. You think it sounds really spacious and wide, and then when you hear it back, it's actually quite more compact and tiny. Yeah. So anyway, it's something that they could improve, but I don't know if it might actually change the magic of the reproduction in that room, though. You never know. But we introduced some of that liveliness with effects afterwards. So. But anyway,
I think the easy way is just to have like a spread pair of like microphones, somewhere.
And actually just record the room itself. Yeah,
or record this, because it does sound. I think it has a very good sound. Just feels.
Yeah, the acoustics are good.
It feels so tuned, but it feels like something like. That's one thing about that room. I think like if there was a cello player there and you had with the speakers like playing the test equipment stuff and then recorded that too, it would sound good. It would really sound good. So I think, yeah, to have the room recording, that could be a good idea. Just, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great idea. It's definitely a great idea.
I mean, I've got always mics running here. So I try to get all my electronics acoustic. So I use amps. I run in through small amps, big amps. And so I'm basically doing the same thing that the composers did in the 30s, 40s, since ever electronic music came about, to find a way to make these sounds less from a loudspeaker, but more acoustic. I've got a gong speaker, for example, that is a gong that's excited, so it goes ding, 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 and I can play the piano and have my modular play that gong and have a small Russian speaker behind it, so I can play the synthesizers through that and record all that. It's all mic'd. And just to give the electronic the pleasure of having been once in the air and then captured. It makes everything sit so much easier. It makes it so much more alive. And it's such a worthy process that I'm personally often, like, I regret not doing it all the time, because a direct line signal is so easy and so much fun to tweak. But if I took the time to record it, to have everything, to have even more stuff through amps, through weird speakers, through all these things, I think the results would be more natural, maybe.
So how do you go about that technically then? Do you just record all those sources separately and then mix them afterwards, or is everything you do one take?
All in the room. One take,
Yeah.
all in the room. It goes all to a Telefunken tape machine, and usually it's just there. And
Okay, but how do you judge then your final signal? Because if you've got speakers playing everywhere, and amps and stuff going on, then it could sound fantastic in the room, but the recording might actually be very uneventful.
I can do headphones.
Oh, right. Okay.
I can always go ahead for headphones and see what sounds there. So I've got
Right.
different. I've got the big ass fancy ones for like doing like critical mix stuff, and then I've got these one for tracking. So switching between those, and of course I got the Aura Tone speaker, that small tiny one. So every time at some point, the single mono speaker, I'm just like, okay, so now this needs work. And then and once I go back to speaker, okay, it's better. It's like the single thing that made all my mixes better is the Aura Tone through a Crown preamp. That was the best purchase I ever made.
Yeah, it's an interesting technique. I think in general, I just did some workshops with a few guys that made a long live soundscape. And I told them it might be nice to go to a big open space and record the same thing and have the natural reverb and then blend those signals together. And I think in the end, it's coming together really nicely, blending that really wet signal and the dry signal, which is also processed. But I think it really fitted the sound, and it's a very nice technique to have this acoustic element to electronic music, I guess.
Yeah, it works like crazy. I mean, when I first came into this building, a lot of rooms were still empty, or there was less stuff in there. Let's say it like that. And for a while, I ran speakers into the airlocks of the bunker and into the hallway and stuff like that, and have a mic on the other end of the room. And because it's all concrete and they're quite big spaces here. By just moving these things around, the speakers and the mics, you can get all kinds of resonances and sort of side effects by playing sources into that room and then miking them back into the studio, and it makes your sound sources take on a completely different life, because you get this sort of natural reverb of an actual space. There's no way to recreate that in I mean, there are like impulse response type convolution reverbs, but having an actual mic and an actual room is still a lot different,
Yeah, totally.
I've seen so many nice places while traveling. In Croatia once, on an island, they had a bunker into the island for a submarine in it. It had a really awesome acoustics. Or in Iran, in an underground city, they had a water tank it also had a great reverb sound.
Did you record anything there?
No, just with the microphone on my telephone,
okay.
you know, and yeah.
There's a company,
Yeah.
I don't remember the company, but it's selling famous reverbs. So they record, I think it's a great idea for a company. They record the famous buildings, reverbs of famous buildings that you can recreate in a plugin. So when you do a movie and you have to do a scene in that space, you use the reverb of the actual space that they recorded the reverb from.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's fun to have your mic hanging from the ceiling and sort of slowly rock as a pendulum, you know, and picking up the speaker at each rotation and stuff like that. Building constructions like that is just a lot of fun. It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Good, guys. What else? Let's see what's going on in the comments. Anybody still here listening to our mumblings and nerd outs?
Yeah.
Let's see if there's anything. Best mumblings. Thanks, Cedric.
Maybe you can talk about favorite instruments or something.
Yeah, or tell me what okay, you built this matrix, but you also have 2 mixers and stuff now installed in your studio.
Yeah. New setup will be a small Sony desk with controllable VCA's on the 8 channels. The idea to have I wanted octave bumper filters patched through on the output patch on it. So you got some kind of EQ kind of thing, filter bank you can control and pan then. And then there's the other small Sony desk with direct outputs, which has 8 aux amps, so you can process signal and returns you can put on the channels who have the direct outputs and put them into the computer separate.
That's cool. Yeah, that's what I noticed in working in your studio before. You know, we did some quick things. We never really did an entire project, but you really need you to be there to get anything out of it, because it's for people who've never worked with this stuff, it's quite daunting. But now you have this mixers, you can basically make a patch, and everybody knows how a mixer works, you know. You can just basically try things out and see where you get.
Bring your laptop
without having to make the patches yourself. That's cool. I'll definitely have another visit when it's all done. Okay, guys. Everybody's spotting Heimbach's wine. Let's say again what it is, because people want to know.
It is a Moosmann from Buchholz-Baden Spätburgunder Rotwein. You can order this at Moosmann. They're classy enough to not put their website on here, but so it's a really nice summery wine.
Yeah.
So
perfect. Okay, well, we're nearing 2 hours. What I usually do at the end of this thing is give everybody a round of plug time. So maybe if everybody can think of the things they've got coming out or want to plug something, this is the time to promote yourself. And who's first? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Albert, tell us.
I'm gonna do a residency at Extrapol next week. Extrapol is sound space. They do performances in Nijmegen. And they also have a graphic design studio and a print workshop. And they have snare instruments by Yuri Landman, and I'll record those. And I will do it remotely with a painter from Stockholm that I'm gonna be collaborating with. He's called David van Baar, and he paints with broken spray cans. So he breaks them open so all the paint shoots out, and he paints like that. Very aggressive, like avant graffiti artist. Yeah, I'm gonna do a few projects with him, and this is one. Also the first time he's gonna properly work with audio, so that's interesting too, I think. And of course, I guess we just finished the album, Jochem. I don't know if we settled on the final order and tracks, but I think we're
I guess so.
99%
I think it's
there. Yeah.
it's there. It's almost there. Yeah, I think it's pretty much there. Yeah, for sure. Just one last look on, and then we should be done.
Yeah.
But tell me, how can you work with a painter from a distance? How does that work? What does it look like?
I mean, he was supposed. It's a Corona story again. So
Right.
the music we're gonna do remote. So I'm gonna record, and we're gonna probably use Dropbox or some sort of sharing platform to send files up and down.
Okay, so it's not a performance. It's something that takes place during some time, and then the result will be presented as after the sessions or something.
Combination, because he will still come to the Netherlands in April, because I want to record the sounds of these spray cans and then do a live sort of noise performance while he does an action painting. So they're done in 4 or 5 minutes, and I'll do a short sound performance together.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Okay, and Dennis, you got something coming up you want to share with the world?
I got a new IP ready. Need to find a label for it. And lots of work on the studio. Want to get the studio in the backup improved. And then people can come over, rent it, residency, whatever. And I hope it's gonna be work like I said, automated with the matrices and the 2 mixing desk corners with all the filters and analyzers.
So how do people contact you when they want to rent your studio?
Yeah, mondelo@gmail.com.
Okay.
Easy.
Okay, so you are the guy with that address.
Yeah.
Such a great story. I think it's a great story.
Yes.
And we should mention our EP on Stoor, 2 EPs. Yeah. So it's already sold out. So too bad for people who are interested in buying it, but you can still listen to it. They're all on YouTube and on SoundCloud.
Yes.
So everybody wants to check that out.
And also, January, maybe a 7-inch comes out. Some short material. Let's see.
No label yet?
Yeah, I have a label for it, but we have to pick the right material.
Okay, so you can't talk about it yet. So okay.
No.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, and Heimbach, anything we should know about your adventures?
Oh, there's a bunch of stuff. So I had to delay my follow-up to Impulsgenerator, because Corona reasons, because shipping issues with vinyl, it was just a mess. So that will be delayed until next year. But I got another thing coming, which I can't talk about. It will be vinyl again, and I'm not going to even name the collaboration part, because then people will think it's going to be something else. But so music is coming out. The next music that I'm releasing will be in January, 6th of January. There will be a new single out, and it will be made with the Landfill Totems. And it's
nice.
One of the most experimental LPs that I've ever done, because it's also very dark. It's super dark. I had a lot of run. This year I tried to stay positive, so I made very positive albums. I made my album Assertion, and that was right at the start of this whole thing, and I tried to go against the feeling of just want to sit down and make dark drones all day, and I tried to go to a place that's happy. So that was Assertion, and that's still available on Bleep and everywhere. And Light Splitting, my record with Style Records, which already has test equipment in an ambient context, which is something that was very interesting to me to try to use these things, not for this powerful music, but something that's softer and more quiet. Just a single filter being turned. So that's all out. But I've been doing some plugins now. So I'm selling these plugs, and right now I've got something that takes tape to basically your iPhone and your iPad. It's called Gauss Field Looper. It's made together with a Bram Boss. And this is a looper, sampler, field recorder with a sequencer and effects. And it's something that you can just use to record stuff while you're walking around in the kitchen.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then make it immediately music because I don't know how you guys are, but I have got a whole phone and field recorders full of stuff that I never use. And
That's a good point. That's
it's a
definitely a good
guilty
point.
feeling.
Yeah.
I felt so guilty about all these beautiful recordings that I never used. So I wanted something, okay, immediately. Did record it. Nice. My mother playing like the piano for my birthday. So record it. And then, okay, so now this is something I can morph in here. I can half speed, play backwards, play it slow, do all these kind of beautiful things to that. And then use it. And then either like I can share that loop with other people from here immediately. Everybody who goes can use that, and then I can also use it in Aum, which is the most fun workspace to make iOS music. And you can sync it up with all your other gear, make it rhythmic even. And this is basically a mixture of my guilty conscience for not using all the field recordings that I've done, and my live patch that I've played for the past 4 years on my Seat Lombard equipment, rolled into one and made actually good and fun by Brambos. So this is on the App Store, and you can buy it for €7.99, I think. And Apple changed their policies, so we're getting actually a bit more now, not because they changed their cuts to 15% only instead of 30%. I wish they'd done that a month sooner, because you don't make a lot of money in apps, even though this was like at the one spot, place one for music apps for like 3 days. This is not something that apps don't make you a lot of money, but it's something that's just a hard project.
Like music.
Yeah.
It's like moderately successful music. So that's about the thing that you're getting out of that. But and then I also did another plugin. I don't know how to share, but it's another thing. I've got a wire recorder here, which is something that I discovered at Wouter van Velthofen's place, amazing artist, and he uses Russian wire recorders in his music, and that was so cool that I had to have one. And I turned that Russian wire recorder into a plugin that you can use in your VST audio units and even in Pro Tools, and get the sound of number stations in your digital audio workstation. Which is
Aren't these wire
weird.
recorders? Aren't these the devices they use to make voice memos on and stuff like that?
This is the stuff that like there's this called, what's that series called? The Wire. That's named after a wire recorder. It's not
right.
Because wearing a wire means wearing an actual wire recorder. It's not like recording the telephone line, so that's where that comes from. And it is used, like this unit especially, is used only was used in the Cold War only by the KGB and the Red Army and all the armies of the sister states. Like I got one from the National Volksarmee, or the Stasi. I don't know. The recordings on there are inconclusive. You can still hear some men from Saxony talking out, Die Zähler werden nicht verfolgt, wenn sie autark arbeiten. So this is... And if you found that Easter egg in that plugin, it's very good. So these are the things that I have right now for sale. And next year there's going to be a bunch more new music. And that's going to be dark and heavy and full of test equipment.
And the higher money, of course.
Yeah, we gotta finish that. That's something we need to finish.
Yeah.
Do it.
It's so hard to do that though. Like unless Dennis like reroutes the studio now, so I can be like, I'm gonna play this from here. No, but that's the thing. Like it's like it was such a visceral experience to work in that small space together while drinking amazing beer and just plugging things. So yeah, it's hard to do that like wire exchange of files.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I just talked about. Yeah, it's a nightmare. But I mean, at least you were together and had fun. You know, that's
we got some really good tracks.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks. That's a good idea, by the way, Heimbach, about using your found sounds immediately, because I'm too familiar with the situation where I record shitloads of stuff on my phone or my portable recorder, and then I never end up using it.
I've got the solution.
Yeah, so many times when I've sat out there, with my field recorder, thinking, oh, this is so beautiful, this is so amazing, but still, I rarely use it. or I use it in a completely different context, just to have some noise in the background or something, instead of enjoying the beautiful recording for what it is. Anyway, cool. So I think I'm just gonna use this time then to promote the Stoor hoodies. Yes, they're finally here, people, and they're a collaboration with Thijs from Tegendraads. He's an embroidery artist here in Rotterdam, and we've done 2 types of hoodie. One is a small white logo on black. That's the one I'm wearing now. It's embroidered. And then we have one with a really big black on black, jet black on black. So it's a really classy looking one. And it'll be available soon, maybe even tonight. I don't know. But you'll find out if you keep an eye on our socials. So yeah, we've been asked about hoodies. So this is the time. And if you can be on time for the holidays, because we're doing them made to order as a pre-order until I think the order closes at 12th of December, so you have to be quick. And other than that, join our Discord. Discord is becoming a really fun place. If you want to continue the nerdy talks as we have today with 1,000 other nerd heads talking about music gear, process equipment, blah blah blah, all that stuff, that's the place to do it. And I also encourage you to take a look at our Patreon page. Sander will put everything in the comments, post all the links so you can find it easily. Patreon page has just a simple way to support us if you like this podcast, or if you want to go into the higher tiers, you can get sound packs or even masterclasses and exclusive footage from backstage and sound checks here in the lab and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, have a look there. And I think that sums it up, people. 2 hours of nerd talk again.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Oh yes.
So thanks, Heimbach, for joining us. It was really nice talking to you. Amazing stories, great stories, great insights. And Albert, good to see you, man. We should draw the line very soon on that album and get it out into the world.
Yeah.
And it's great to have you. And Dennis, gast, box. Yeah, try that online. That's only possible like this. So, and thanks to the people who joined us from YouTube and Twitch. Thanks for hanging out with us. Yeah. And it was a lot of fun. And see you next week. Same time, same place. Ciao, ciao.
Bye, everybody.